Shout out to my boy Mineta for being the true winner of this race. If you didn't notice, Mineta, great boy, he was attached to Momo. That's how he won. And if you didn't realize, he was attached straight up to her ass. Mineta wins. Clearly he won in his own way, but Mineta clearly won this competition. Just if you didn't notice it, go back and watch the episode. You'll see. It's fucking hilarious. Which explains why he has like this big bruise on his face because he got slapped and all that. But he's like, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. I got to ride across the finish line on her ass. Good man, Mineta. Anyways, though, Izuku. Oh my god. Like, I want to be honest here, I remember it now that it was shown in this episode, but I forgot about it until it was shown. But that facial that facial reaction from Izuku when that man realized he done fucked up. Like, his face at the end of the episode. I know that's thumbnail. When that man had that face on when he realized he was worth 10 million points, that was the face of a dead man. Like, that man knew he was done. Like, he did. Like, he gone. Because, like, he was told to stand out. Like, All Might told him, like, okay, Izuku, I need you to go out there and say, I am here! You're there. And that's what his goal was. Well, it seems like Izuku did his job too well. Because now, he's dead man. Everybody's looking at this man like, I'm going to get you. Like, we're about to axe you from this competition. Like, that's when you stand out too much. You try to stand out, you stand out too much. That's what's happening to Izuku. And the facial reaction on when he realizes he's completely fucked is hilarious. Now, I do want to talk about something that many anime-onlys might not have realized, and it could be very confusing. So I kind of want to do a clarification to that scene with the 10 million points, and then, you know, how it was going up 5 points from each person in a different place. I want to clarify Izuku's points. If you add it all up, obviously, Izuku shouldn't have 10 million points, if you add up all the contenders and all that. It's obvious he shouldn't have 10 million, but the reason why he does is because he's in first place. And what I'm getting at is that because he's in first place, he won the last, you know, competition, he has the most points applied to him, but if you get his headband in this, you have an automatic win. Instant win. GG. And that's kind of the purpose of this. First place, if you take first place headband from them, you automatically win. So, it's not because that they did bad math or whatever, it's just the fact of it is because he's in first, if they take that, he, you know, yeah, they automatically win, which obviously Izuku would lose. So, looking at it like this, it puts you in a perspective to where it's very realistic to maybe how some of the other professional heroes are in Boku no Hero Academia. You gotta think about it like this. As we know, there is top heroes, pro heroes. They, you know, have their own little ranking system. We know All Might's #1. In second place, we know it's Endeavor, because, you know, we've seen these past couple episodes of it, you know, being talked about, and how, you know, Todoroki, he's related to Endeavor. And when you look at it like this, you do know that there has to be some form of ranking system to where these heroes underneath #1, for instance, All Might, they probably want to strive to be at the top. They want to yank down the guy on top, and they want to be on top. It's kind of what we saw throughout this episode between Todoroki, Bakugo, and Izuku. They were all competing for first place. Well, you had to mainly where Bakugo and Todoroki, they were the main spotlight of the episode. Like, they were competing, they were neck and neck, going back and forth, but then all of a sudden, Izuku came out of fucking nowhere and launched past them and won, which actually goes along with the main theme of this episode and the conclusion of the episode as well. Because of how much Izuku stepped into the spotlight, now, he's probably going to get fucked over for it, because he will be too blinded by everybody coming after him, or certain people right next to him, than actually maybe someone that you can barely notice, which is what happened to Todoroki and Bakugo. They weren't really noticing or really factoring in Izuku at all. He popped out of nowhere, and he surpassed him and won. But thanks to that, now he's in a predicament very similar to what was going on with Todoroki and Bakugo. So, that's kind of the main message here, but also it plays a theme with the actual heroes as well, like All Might, Endeavor. Obviously, they want to get to #1 as well, and so it's very similar to this regard, like, you know, how people compete with each other to move up in the rankings. Now, with all that being said, I do want to mention something that I really found enjoyable. I remember laughing my ass off to it, but once again, I just want to mention it because I still haven't forgot what I said at that time, but I don't know how many noticed it, but there was a couple of characters introduced at the beginning of this episode, and when you see Kirishima, the redhead guy, I'm making sure, because, anime onlys might not recognize his name, but the redhead named Kirishima, he has the ability to harden his body, and you see this character beside him called Tetsu, and his last name is Tetsu. The man has the same exact ability, and I'm gonna talk about that name. Can we just say that that man's name is absolute shit? Like, I feel bad for him. His name is Tetsu. If you don't know, go check it up. Just type it in on Google. It's legit. That's his real name. I feel so bad for that dude. I feel so bad. He has a quirk that is very basic and doesn't stand out. But on top of that, his name is just so bad. It's such a bad name. I just can't help but feel so bad for Tetsu because of how his name is. But then, you also gotta feel bad for Kirishima, because he's like, I already have a hard time as it is. I mean, I already have a quirk ability that is not that fucking amazing, like pizzazz and all that, so it's already hard enough to stand out. Now you add in someone else that has a quirk ability just like me in this competition, how am I gonna stand out? I just love that. I love that with Kirishima in this episode, in the way he stated that. It really makes me love Horikoshi's writing, which Horikoshi is the manga, if you did not know. It makes me love the writing of this series, and I remember I talked about it in last week's episode review, and I kind of want to talk about it again, just to clarify to you anime-onlys, that, once again, emphasis on the side characters and supporting cast. You normally, when you're watching a show, these characters don't get development, they don't get, any details about them. Maybe slight characterization, but overall, they're not really that important. But I want to make sure I reinforce this once again, that these characters are very important. They are important, they serve a purpose, or they eventually will serve a purpose because of the writing style of Horikoshi. So I just want to once again emphasize that. So this is why I really love this series and appreciate all of these characters being introduced. Because normally, I wouldn't give a rat's ass about these characters introduced. Because even though they have cool abilities, they won't barely be used in the series. But that's not the case with this series. Because the mangaka actually goes out of his way to focus on support and side characters instead of just focusing on the main character 24/7. Because remember, this isn't called, fucking Izuku. That's not what the series is called. It's called Boku no Hero Academia, or My Hero Academia, so obviously it could focus on other characters besides just Izuku. Now, with all that out of the way, though, I do want to talk about another thing that popped up in this episode, and that is the fact of how badass this episode was, in terms of action, music, character introductions, just the way the art looked, just overall the entire episode had a very good presentation about it. And I personally, as a manga reader, I have no complaints with this episode. It is a very well done episode that you can see a lot of passion was put into it. The only complaint I necessarily have with this episode, which is a very minor complaint, but it's a complaint nonetheless, is the fact that there seems to be a little bit more recap in this season of Boku no Hero Academia than there was in the past. Now, I have heard that the production of this series is very far along the road. Like, it's way beyond the normal production standards of, anime series, and it's not currently facing the normal issues of what is happening in the anime industry right now, what I was talking about a couple of days ago. And so because of this series is way ahead of schedule. But for some reason, there is a lot of recaps, and I'm just kind of curious of why they're doing that. I mean, there is a lot more. I mean, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things, but it's a definite increase in recaps compared to the first season, at least a couple minutes worth added. And I was just like, I wonder why they're doing this. I mean, I know they're ahead of production, but why are they doing this? But regardless of all of that, though, episode... it's good. I approve. I approve. As a manga reader, I approve of the episode. I had fun watching it. It had all these individual little scenes throughout, the manga that, I enjoyed added into this episode. There was no scene skipped from what I can see, and I want to clarify once again, if you didn't know, this Season 2 of Boku no Hero Academia is really perfectly following the manga, so you don't have to worry about a shitty adaptation. So, there you go. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.